Hey y'all, this is Jillian from Maxine Makes Magic. Welcome back to my channel. We are back for my Disney Parks food series where we are going to try and recreate a Disney recipe from the parks. And today we are headed over to Epcot's Norway Pavilion to Kringla Bakeri because we are going to try our hands at making what I think is one of the best and most underrated desserts in all of Walt Disney World, school bread. Now, what is the deal with this dessert, might you ask, and why is it so delicious? Now, school bread is a Norwegian dessert, and essentially where it gets its name from, because I think it's pronounced school bread, I'm totally butchering that, but where the naming comes from is the fact that these desserts are said to be quite popular in kids' lunch boxes or at bake sales at school. So, of course, school bread. So we're gonna go ahead and try to make that today. It's essentially a cardamom bun. It's sweet, but not too sweet, with a nice Danish pastry cream inside, topped with coconut and some icing to make the coconut stick onto the bun. And it is so good. It's one of those desserts that's not too heavy, it's not too sweet. So on a really, really hot Florida, Orlando day, it is one of the best treats you can have in the parks, and it's very, very shareable. Here is our inspiration picture for today. This is actually one I took for my trip back in October, and funny enough, my husband and I got one night, and then we went back to Epcot again the next day, and we're like, oh, we're not gonna get one, like we're not gonna do it, and we totally did. So it is one of those treats that we absolutely love to get, and I highly recommend you do so. And now you get to try to make it yourself at home. So let's go ahead and do a quick ingredient roundup and go ahead and get right into it. All right, y'all, it's time for our ingredient roundup. The most important thing I need you to take away from today's ingredient roundup is that we're working with two recipes today, both a bread dough as well as a vanilla pastry cream. Our vanilla pastry cream is going to need time to cool for today's recipe, so we want to make sure we start with that first prior to starting on our bread dough. Diving right into our vanilla pastry cream, we're going to start by combining egg yolks, sugar, salt, vanilla extract, and cornstarch into a large glass bowl. Once we have all of our ingredients ready to go, we're going to whisk vigorously until we get a smooth mixture. Moving right along, let's go ahead and get our milk heating up in our saucepan over a medium heat. You're going to want to stir and whisk this just to make sure that none of the milk solids are sticking to the bottom of the pan. Once you see the milk start to lightly simmer, we're going to go ahead and take that off the heat and pour half of it over our egg mixture. Make sure you whisk extremely vigorously. We don't want any clumps to form, and to make sure the bowl doesn't go sliding around, you can also put a towel down to help with this. Before returning it to the heat, we're going to combine our milk and egg mixture. We can return our saucepan over to the stovetop and cook over medium heat. Our goal here is to cook down the eggs and get that nice thick pastry cream consistency. That's where the cornstarch comes into play from earlier, because that is a thickening agent. This step is going to happen pretty quickly, so just keep an eye on it, but whisk for about 30 seconds after bubbles start to break at the very surface of your mix. You can see here on the screen, it is happening quite quickly. Once it does, you'll go ahead and you're going to remove it from the heat, and that's when we're going to add in our butter. For our last step, we're going to pour the cream into a glass bowl. Make sure you just are using a heat-safe bowl here. You'll want to ensure also that you add some plastic wrap over the top and it touches the top of the pastry cream, so no skin forms on the pastry cream while it cools for about 1 to 2 hours. Starting with our bread dough, you're going to want to heat your milk in the microwave or in a saucepan till it's warm but not hot. If you do this, it will kill your yeast and your dough will not rise later on. You're going to want that around 110 degrees Fahrenheit. To that, you're going to add your active dry yeast and a tablespoon of sugar. You're going to stir it and leave it for about 5 to 10 minutes. That sugar is going to be the food that your yeast uses to bubble up and grow. Moving over to our stand mixer, we're going to combine salt, the remaining sugar, cardamom, and our egg, and let that mix for a little bit until it's combined well. Once that's combined, you'll go ahead and take that bubbly yeast mixture and add it into the egg mixture. This part of the recipe is really beginner friendly because if for whatever reason you accidentally overheat your milk and you kill your yeast, you can scrap that portion of this step and start over. And once you get this nice bubbly mixture with the yeast, you can add it into the stand mixer and combine the rest of the wet ingredients. We can go ahead and slowly add in our flour and our softened butter. You can do this with either a wooden spoon, by hand, with a dough hook. Your dough hook is going to do a lot of the work for you, and that's what I did today. It made this process really, really easy. If you're finding that your bread dough is just too sticky, go ahead and add in about a tablespoon extra of flour. This is going to ensure your bread dough is not too firm and floury, and not too sticky, and will form a nice dough ball to go into the proofing stage. Once you've kneaded the dough for about 10 minutes, go ahead and cover it with a towel and let it rise for about 45 minutes until it's doubled in size. Once our dough has doubled in size, we can go ahead and shape the dough into 10 different balls. I got 9 out of the recipe. Some might be a little bit bigger, some might be a little bit smaller. That's totally okay. Biggest thing here is just to cut these on an unfloured surface and use the surface to round the ball and really get rid of any seams. In order to get the desired ball shape, I went ahead and spread out the dough and folded it in thirds on top of itself. Then I went ahead and cupped my hand and rolled it on top of the ball on the unfloured surface repeatedly, really trying to close that seam. You can also use a bench scraper to gently encourage the dough underneath of the ball to seal itself. I went back and forth between this process and rolling the ball until I felt that the seam was pretty well closed. Really eyeball it. Truthfully, it will settle and come together while it proofs once more. That's really the benefit of the proofing process, other than getting that rise in the dough. Just make sure you have fun with it and don't stress out. I know you'll get it. Let's line 2 baking sheets with parchment paper and put about 4 to 5 buns on each one. We'll let these guys proof for another 15 to 20 minutes and make sure you set your oven to 390 degrees Fahrenheit. After those 15 to 20 minutes, you're going to want to add a little well in the middle of each of your dough balls. The reason for this is because we need somewhere for our filling to go. I used the bottom of a shot glass and used a rounding motion in order to achieve this. You also can use your fingers to press down the middle. It should be the size of a US quarter. Now mine were a little bit bigger than that, but that just means more cream filling, and what's not to love about that. And yes, we are going to let these rise one more time for about 15 to 20 minutes before brushing them with an egg wash. But do not fret, my friends. Here comes the fun part. We're going to spoon some pastry cream into the middle of each bun. It's about 1 to 2 tablespoons for each one. I overfilled mine just a touch, but again, extra cream, extra love. We're not mad about it here. It's a good thing. So we'll go ahead and add that mixture into the middle of each one and pop it in the oven for about 10 to 12 minutes. I used both racks and did both baking sheets at the same time, so just make sure you rotate them halfway. Now that our buns are out of the oven, we're gonna go ahead and place them on our wire rack and let them cool for about 30 minutes. But we also need to prepare our icing. We'll go ahead and combine powdered sugar and water. Really, the goal here is just to make sure that the mixture is thick enough that it sticks to the bun, but it's not too hard because we want to ensure that our coconut sticks to the icing and the bun. So use your best judgment, spread it all around. Again, extra icing is never a bad thing. Have fun with it. And once you've added your icing, you can just pile the coconut all over the icing. Biggest thing I will say is try to avoid getting it on top of the custard because it just doesn't look as cute. And we're gonna add another dollop of custard on top of these guys at the end to finish them off. And there you have it, folks. Adorable, delicious, and beautiful school bread. Perfect rendition of what you can get at Kringla Bakeri in the Epcot Norway Pavilion. So excited to give these a try. All right, y'all, so we have our school bread. We were able to make 9 with this recipe. We probably should have been able to make 10. A couple of these are massive, but I think they turned out great. I'm super excited with them. The only thing I forgot to do, which I feel like is a little bit of a cardinal sin, because if you're ever baking, you should always know if you're using nuts and sometimes coconut, you usually are supposed to toast it. I did not do that. So I'm a little bummed about that because that is a part of the recipe that, you know, we see at Epcot. I don't necessarily think it was in the recipe that I used for today. At least it wasn't noted, but in the Epcot item, you can totally tell that it's toasted coconut. So definitely make sure you do that. It will enhance this, I promise you that. I have been wanting to make this one since December, so I'm happy we finally got to do that now in March of 2025. And I just am ready to dive in and give this one a taste. So you know what that means. It's time for the taste test. Okay, it is seriously time for the taste test. Getting my hair out of the way. We got a big boy here. Super excited about it. And we're just gonna see how this goes. All right. Cheers. So it's really messy, but it's so good. Oh my gosh, I had to get a napkin off camera. Okay, so one thing I will say right off the top, and you don't know these things until you actually bake. You can see that there's not a ton of filling in the inside. A lot of the filling is on the top. That's okay. What you can do to avoid that, and there's nothing wrong with that because you're still gonna get a ton of pastry cream on top. What you can do to avoid that is really make sure when you're in that proofing process before you pop them in the oven, you really make sure you press down the center so you have a spot to fill. And that's following the recipe that I used for today. Now, the Disney recipe, I can't tell if they actually take a piping tip and pipe the custard or the pastry cream, I should say, into the school bread. I don't know. I think that's what they do. That might be the main difference here, but honestly, you could take bits off of this and just like dip it in the pastry cream off the top. It works the same. The other thing I might have done differently is baked it for maybe a minute less and let them sit out longer on the countertop before I refrigerated them. I would refrigerate this, especially if you put the extra pastry cream on the top. Even though that it is baked, I would still refrigerate it just because there's eggs and stuff in there. So overall, super happy with this recipe. Really easy to follow. Shout out to the original creator because you made this process so absolutely easy. And I think this is a great rendition of school bread at home. I think if you're wanting to bring the Disney parks to your casa, that is a very, very easy way to do it. And I think it's really beginner friendly. I've never done it before. This was my first time making this as well, and it was super easy. If you liked today's video, make sure you go ahead and check out my Disney Parks food series playlist. I go and check out recipes from all across the internet and use them to try to recreate popular Disney parks eats and treats at home. If you liked today's video, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss a video. It is so helpful for this channel when you guys subscribe, engage, and helps just grow this Disney adult family just that much more video by video. And I'm so happy to have you here. This is Jillian from Maxine Makes Magic, and I hope you have a magical day. Bye guys!